Hey y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, it's America's birthday on Tuesday, but there is racing at Belmont. So let's take a look at the early pick five sequence, and you'll get some races in before your cookouts and family functions.
Configuration since it's Belmont. This one starts on a turn, and this race is more than a turn and a half as opposed to two turns. So horses to the inside would certainly have an advantage. Not a big field here, but it is something you always want to know. Number one is Runaway Rumor, and this one towers over the field buyer-wise. The last race in the Mount Vernon took back against a really hot pace that they couldn't even time the half mile right. I think watching the replay, they said it was at like 43. Needless to say, the pace was extremely hot for Belmont and for the turf. That horse is in this race again today, and this Runaway Rumor rated behind it wisely, and Manny Franco took the top of the stretch, took command, and got run down by Marvelous Maud, who's an equally good horse. So it's not that much of a sin here. You don't have, I don't think, anything really um, close to ability-wise as Runaway Rumor. So provided this one just lays off what will likely be another hot pace, will probably be there at the end and would be certainly a use nonetheless. Sonora, you see, likes to run on the front end, and obviously her chances were compromised because of the pace setter last time and setting those ridiculously hot fractions. Now, what you would have to believe is, given the MO of the four horse, that you're going to have the same situation here. So this one's going to try to get on the lead, but it's just not going to be allowed it by the horse that's going to get sent. So the chances are severely compromised, I think, for Sonora in this one. And I can't, because of that, I can't really use. I don't think it's logical. Golden Rocket is kind of interesting. Um, Coming off a long layoff, this would be the 4-year-old debut, and that's always an interesting time to take a look at a horse. Um, you see prior that it took a little while for this one to get going, but ran in the New York Stallion Series at Saratoga and got a win, and then followed it up with a pretty good effort in the Pebbles. And look at that field. You had Faith in Humanity, Gina Romantica, who have done pretty well this year. This one's had some pretty good company. They moved back to dirt. Can't quite figure out why, but obviously the efforts weren't very good. And it looks to me like this one was getting a little frustrated, having to run on the surface that she doesn't like. And sometimes when horses get used to running on turf, when they go back to dirt, they react this way. Uh, so I would discount those a little bit. I wouldn't put too much stock in it. So this one's back on the preferred surface and has had plenty of time off. Now, Patricia Farrow is okay with long layoffs, um, but I mean, with another jump forward, that would put this one in the mix and likes to run off the pace. And at 8-1 is kind of intriguing, considering it's a small field and um, you got a couple of real short prices in here. So I would think maybe this one's a nice alternative, and I would consider using. Freddie Mo Factor is a pace factor only. You see the last couple of races, they're just sending this horse and praying that she can hang on. Doesn't have the buyers to match up with anybody in this, and frankly, it's kind of ridiculous to me that they would put a horse in this position and think that they're going to get anything in the way of a successful effort. Eduardo Jones is 0 for the meet, so obviously he's not going very well. There's no reason to use. I would pass. Going to be a pace factor, though. What Love looks like is Todd Pletcher and Flavian Pratt, and, those are obviously great connections. Barry Schwartz is the owner, but uh, this one's taken some time. Has been a slow developer, and you see a steady creep in the buyers, and now you're coming third off the layoff, um, and had just run the career high. So all those are positives. Um, it's just I mean, I think Runaway Room is just a better horse right now, and if you follow this pattern, this horse probably will improve. But really, is it going to be enough to win this race? That's really the question I kind of don't think so. But you are getting 4-1, and you know, you can consider using. But I mean, it's such a small field. We obviously want to keep our selection short. So I think Runaway Rumor is probably the best bet in this race. And so I would, you know, if you want to use for the connections, I can understand it, but I just don't think this one will have enough to actually win the race. We do have a one eligible for main track only, and fairly obvious Sunset Louise. If this goes to dirt, this is an obvious win candidate. Bruce Levine, good dirt trainer. You get Jose Ortiz, and you look. This one's coming third off the layoff with the career high buyer on dirt. So I would say that if it comes off turf, this is definite use. Second race at Belmont is a state bred maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up, and it's run on the dirt at 1.1 miles. And as we noted, Belmont, that means one turn. And I'll tell you right off the bat, this is a spread race. It is really difficult to find any defining form for a favorite here, for a winner. So just keep that in mind as we go along. Number one is Gossiping Pando. It's trained by Linda Rice, and you get Jose Ortiz aboard. The debut on turf was not anything to write home about, and it's not really a surprise. If you look at the work tab, you see a lot of gaps in it, so I think they had some trouble getting this one to market. But you know, Linda Rice, the barn, and she just won just cinched the training title, and the barn's going really well. And you know, it's sort of a leap of faith after that first effort, but you just have to believe that Linda Rice will get this one going in the second start. That's usually a good place for her maidens. So I think Gossiping Pondo. I don't, you know, again, I'm not real excited about that debut effort, but I think you have to take a leap of faith with these connections. Chester, Mary Broman, good New York owners outfit. They don't put garbage out there too often. So this is one to definitely think about using. Union Trail showed a little bit of ability in the first race, all coming off the layoff. Made a move early in the race, and I think it was with the knowledge that Freud Me In was going to be a runaway winner on the lead, and was, you know. So I think that it was Carmouche tried to make a little effort. Let's see if we can get up and try to steal it. Hung with Freud Me In for a little while and just flattened out in the stretch. But the thing about it was that you saw a little bit of ability there, and maybe with a more realistic running of the race, then you know this one could factor. It's trained by Saratoga Stables, you know, Funny Side fame's 20-year anniversary of him winning the Derby, by the way. So I digress. But it wasn't a bad effort, and you go back and you look at the debut at Gulfstream, and this one went in a race with Arthur's Ride Dreamlike. Dreamlike finished second in the Wood Memorial. Arthur's Ride's a pretty good horse. So this one's raced against some decent horses, and it's logical that, you know, with a little time, maybe this one's grown a little bit. So I saw little hints of things there that tell me that I don't think this is one you want to throw out easily. Conversely, Refuel is an automatic toss for a couple of reasons. Number one, 0 for 15, 8 seconds and 3/3. This horse has a major case of second-itis. Has actually broke the maiden, but got disqualified and placed second. So this one, to me, until this one moves down to the claiming ranks, I wouldn't even touch, and even then I probably wouldn't. Peter Walder's cold at the meet, 0 for 14, total pass. I'm Just is another one that kind of takes a little bit of a leap of faith. You got Christophe Clement and Joel Rosario. You know, whenever you see a 5-2 favorite, obviously there's some issues there. It's a little bit of lukewarm, and I don't think there's any exception here. You do see that this one has run in the debut one against Lifetime of Chance, who was a big-time runaway winner. So maybe we can excuse that a little bit. But this one's just been, if you look, you do see some steady improvement, and maybe that's why this one's the favorite. You see 17 3/4 lengths, 7 1/4, 4 1/4, the last on turf. So turf to dirt's a pretty decent angle. So maybe this is one you consider just for those purposes. You see some steady improvement. And again, this is a race that it's kind of hard to find real quality. So yeah, I think you have to use this one by default. Battle of Lexington is one that I thought showed some ability last time. Probably of all the races I've seen from this group, this one showed to me the most. It broke really well out of the gate, and then for some reason, Junior Alvarado took this one back and lingered it towards the rear a little bit, but then started making steady progress and closed pretty well in the stretch to get third. It was a weird race in that you had a 49 to 1 shot way out in front early, and then another long shot, Cicciabello, came and won the thing. Meteorite was the favorite. Battle of Lexington was no threat to win the race, but did show that improvement that you do want to see, and I thought that was worth something. And you can see some prior efforts. This one's demonstrated a fair amount of ability, so I think this is one you definitely have to use in the mix. Bastion is a first-time starter, and immediately in this field, you have to elevate this one's chances. Tom Albertrani is not a great first-time starter trainer, but his barn's going well, so you have to take that into consideration. The other thing is, I mean, Union Rags is okay. I mean, I think it's promising that this one is starting at over a mile, because that's what Union Rags like to do. That's what he liked to do. There's a couple of things that are little issues. You see, this one went for $10,000 at the Keeneland September sale, and the stud fee was $30,000, so they're already operating at a loss. You also see this one is 124 is the high weight, which is also a bit of an issue. However, here are the positives. Star Grazing has had one fall to race and one first time out, so that's a positive for sure. So you've got down in distance at the mile and a 16th, and you also have a precocious dam, so a horse likely who's going to fire pretty well first time out. So basically, in sum, you look at this race, you got 5 out of 6 have a chance to win. The only one I would not use is Refua. So it's a spread race for sure. The third race is an optional claimer for $80,000 for 4-year-olds and up, and it's run on the turf at a mile and a 16th. And if you take a look at the Widener course here, it's run out of a chute, so this is more of a turn and a half race as opposed to 2 turns. Horses to the inside and with a little speed tactically should have a pretty good advantage. We do have a coupled entry in here as well, so St. Anthony is number 2, but he's going to start on the rail. He's trained by Neil Drysdale, and he debuted at 4 and got a career high buyer, which is certainly encouraging. Didn't like the fact that he lost to Dreams of Tomorrow, a horse who's been a project for Shug McGahee for quite some time, who has a lot of trouble closing the deal. So, kind of a black mark to me. Doesn't give me a real great feel about this one's prospects. Certainly going to expect improvement from Neil Drysdale. This one has been incrementally improving, you can see, going along. I'm just not sure this one has quite enough to take him all the way. Definitely going to try to wire the field, but I find it highly doubtful that this one will be able to do it, even with Johnny V aboard. First part of the coupled entry is McKinnon. He's trained by Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt aboard. Debuting at 4 after a long layoff. Hasn't run since the Hill Prince in October at Belmont at Aqueduct. This one's has been okay. I mean, did run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Del Mar and got a pretty good third. But the real issue is this one hasn't really built on it very much. And it's just sort of been an in-the-money finisher out west. Came in to the Hill Prince, and you can see he had the lead in the stretch and then gave it up to Celestial City. I think there's a lot of mixed signals. Certainly, if anybody's going to get the best out of this horse, it'll be Chad Brown. So, putting Flavian Pratt back aboard after the run in October, I think is a good sign as well. Just not sure this one quite would be good enough to take care of this field. However, you want to use, because I like the counterpart 1A here, Side Dog. This one started a career with 3 straight wins and has made steady improvement. The last was in August at Saratoga, so this one's been off for a while. but it was at the Saratoga Derby, and you see who this one who was in that field, Nation's Pride in Annapolis. That's a pretty good field, and this one finished fourth. So we'll be coming from off the pace as a counterpart to some of the earlier runners here, and Graham Motion is great with long layoffs, so I'm not going to worry about that at all. This one's debuting at 4. I'm expecting a better effort, or probably a career effort is more than likely. And you do get Manny Franco, who's a nice turf rider, and he's familiar with this horse. So I think this is one that you certainly have to use. Safe Conduct is very interesting. Phil Serpe is known to throw a bomb here and there. That's his MO. You see he reached out for Jose Lezcano, and he's clicking with him at this meet at 40%. They're 2 out of 5 with a 360 ROI, and he normally clicks with him at 25%. So this is a very good sign right off the bat. This one's form, I think, has been clouded a little bit because of the last 2 efforts at Gulfstream Park. Obviously not very good. But if you consider that Gulfstream is a very hard surface, it tends to be very dry, and it favors a lot of speed. A lot of horses don't carry their form off of Gulfstream to other turf tracks because of that. The other thing is horses who go on turf at Gulfstream who don't like it that firm obviously don't do very well, and I think you got a case of that here. If you look back at the New York form, Belmont at Aqueduct, Saratoga, Monmouth, and Belmont, this one runs a lot better on a surface that's got a little more give, that's a little deeper perhaps. But so you're getting a horse that's coming off a layoff, going back onto a surface that he prefers, and that with numbers that are commensurate with a contending effort here. This one likes the front end, is definitely going to be on. I expect this one to be on the engine. And because you've got all the Chad Browns in here, I think this one's price is going to drift up, so you're probably going to get some decent value. I think this is one maybe you want to take a shot with because there is some vulnerability on some of the other horses. Number 4 was Masterpiece, speaking of vulnerability. This one is on his 4th trainer. Dick Dutrow, and he had Saffie Joseph, Mike McCarthy, and Chad Brown, and none of them could get the most out of this horse. He did win the Ed Reed at Del Mar, but aside from that, you keep waiting for that next big effort from this horse, and it just isn't happening. They made a big purchase, Mike Ivaroni did, to buy this horse. Really don't understand why. He just never seems to get over the top. Now, you're getting class relief here, and you're getting a layoff, and Dick Dutrow's a good trainer, and he reached out for Rod Ortiz, so I think that says something. But if you look at this one's MO, you just can't get behind him, and I think this horse is a solid bet against. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, but I prefer to try to beat this horse, and I think it's possible. Sugar Ray 2 just isn't good enough compared to the rest of this field. Has been doing most of the running at parks and in fields that aren't as good as the ones here. And you get Jaime Torres aboard, who's not the greatest of turf riders, so I'll pass. Portfolio Company, to me, represents the best form of all of them. Coming in 3rd off the layoff, the second effort at the 4-year-old, at 4 years old, was a career high buyer. And whenever you see the note game, then you know that this horse is poised and ready to make another good run. And I think that's the case here. Joel Rosario stays aboard. It's Chad Brown. I think this is a very logical win candidate. And to me, of all the horses in here, is coming in in the best form. And I think that's what separates this one from the rest. The 4th race is a maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up, run at 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. Number 1 is Omni King, and had a fairly decent debut at 6.5 furlongs at Gulfstream with an okay 3rd, but didn't build on it at all, and lost to Mr. Peaks, who we saw earlier on the Derby Trail. It's been a little time off, maybe gets freshened up, will do a little better, but I think there's others in here that are more promising, so I'll pass. Golden Purchase is trained by Eduardo Jones, who's ice cold at the meet, 0 for 26. He's 2% for the year, 2 for 105. and this one's a career 0 for 19. I'll pass. Honor King is trained by Jorge Abreu, who's a good first-time starter trainer. He clicks at 18%. And you do get Jose Ortiz aboard, but Always Dreaming is notoriously bad with first-time starters. And so I have a little reservation there. The second thing is you look at that tab, and there was a month-long gap between works from July 1st to June 3rd. And then you have a couple other gaps in there that are fairly substantial. And so that usually means to me a horse is going to need a race before we consider him. So I'm going to wait on this one. Frat Pack is very logical, trained by Chad Brown. You get Flavian Pratt aboard, and they're owned by Peter Brandt. Those are all A-level connections. First start, finished a pretty good third. It was a year ago at Saratoga, and lost to Up to the Mark, who, as we know, once they switched to turf, turned out pretty good. Total confidence that Chad Brown will have this one ready to roll off a long layoff. That's what he does. It's not a problem at all. The tab is solid. Every indication this one will probably take a step forward here. Obvious win candidate, any use. Magico was a first-time starter for Chad Brown, started by Good Magic, who's 17% with first-timers, so that's pretty good. I do have a couple of concerns. There hasn't been a work in 3 weeks, which is a little bit of a concern, and you do see a gap in the tab as well between the 27th of May and June 11th. So gaps in the tab, particularly when it comes to first-time starters, are never a good thing. So it does give me a bit of reservation. It is Chad Brown, though, and his reputation alone should probably tell you to put this one in the mix. I mean, one goes for the Fasig-Tipton sale in August for $675,000, Madigan stable. So there's some pretty good connections here and some pretty good expectations. It's hard not to use this horse. I have a little reservations, some reservations because of the tab, but I think you probably have to use. Disappearance is trained by Bob Falcone, who was doing really well at the meet earlier, and it's cooled off considerably. This one ran in 2 turns, mile and a 16th last time at Monmouth, and ran a non-factor fourth. Really wasn't involved in the race very much at all. It was a little bit of an improvement over the 6.5 furlong debut. So you can say that that's something. Got something out of the race. They're putting blinkers back on and is coming back to a sprint, which probably is a pretty good thing here. And I would expect a move forward is likely, but I don't. I just like others better. I think that's the bottom line. The last leg of the early pick 5 is the 5th race at Belmont. It's a starter allowance for 3-year-olds and up, and it's run on the dirt at a mile and a 16th. And as we know at Belmont, that's a 1-turn race. There is a coupled entry in here, the first of which is Arabato. Ran a nice race at the tail of the cat at Monmouth, getting a pretty good second, and the note is gamely. But that was 26 points higher buyer-wise than any race this horse had run prior. So to me, it's a couple of things. Number one, this horse really likes Monmouth. Number 2, the light bulb finally went off. Or number 3, that just everything lined up and it was just a freaky type of performance. Regardless, it's very hard to believe that this horse is going to go back and run a race commensurate with that one. If he did, would probably win this race. I think a bounce is more likely, and so for that reason, I'm gonna toss. In spite of Trainer, interesting name, trained by Linda Rice, and you get Flavian Pratt aboard. They clip at 30%, so that's a pretty good intention here. Big concern, though, is that this one went to the bench after a pretty solid win at the option 50 level, and you can see game is the note. So this one was in really good form, and all of a sudden they pull aside. Moreover, the work tab gives me pause because you see in some big gaps between the works. Now, at the claiming level, you can see that more commonly, but Linda Rice and the size of her stable and the way she does things, that to me is a little bit of a concern, and it looks to me like they're having some trouble getting this one back. You don't see a works from since June 16th, and again, the spacing really gives you cause for concern, in my opinion. So if you were to use this one, you are getting 8-1. It's a decent price, but I would be a little wary. Hang Tight is trained by Jesus Romero and is coming off a win at the 25,000 N3L level. Good solid win, nothing against it. Comes from off the pace. Probably the waters are a little deep here. If you go back and note the starter allowance effort January 28th at Aqueduct, it was this one was up the track. Still, it wasn't the down and distance that you get here. And there are some in here that have some spurious form. So if you like this one, I wouldn't talk you out of it. Really, it's hard to. All the horses have mixed signals in this race. So maybe you consider this one coming off a career high. Maybe this one can make another move forward. At 12-1, you get a decent price. I think others are a little better, but if you want to take the shot, I wouldn't blame you. Centavo is the second part of the coupled entry with Nightpole Shatterpole training as well. And you see this one just ran in the Brooklyn Handicap and obviously was a little overmatched class-wise, finishing 20 lengths up the track, but did get his career high, which is kind of interesting. You see prior to that, an effort at a mile and a 16th at the 35,000 N3L level, where this one won pretty convincingly. And I think that's obviously why they moved. They tried to catch lightning in a bottle in the Brooklyn. Has run some pretty good races. I mean, at the 25 and 35,000 level. Excuse me. So it's the horse is in decent form. Unless that the Brooklyn took too much out of. The one thing you have to say is going back to the starter allowance level before wasn't very good. So. Again, this is one with some mixed signals. 7-2, you're getting two for the price of one, but I'm not sure either one of these is really prone or up to winning right now. So again, I'd be pretty advised, but there are some things to like. There's some things not to like. Classic Mark is another one. Linda Rice first off the claim and Jose Ortiz aboard. That's normally a recipe for success. But if you look at this one's form, they had to drop this one to the 15,000 level to finally get the win. The next couple efforts, they did show some confidence. They moved up to 20,000 and then 30,000. But you see the efforts dissipated as the class levels rose. So that's a bit of a question mark to me. Linda Rice is 25% off the claim, and I think you can certainly rely on that. And in this field, probably stands as good a chance as any. I just don't get that real solid feeling, particularly when you look at the work tab. It's a little spotty as well since the claim. Again, at the claiming level, it's not necessarily you're going to see that regular tab you do with stakes winners. But there's just some. I don't know. I just don't get the real solid feeling about this one. And at 4-1, I don't know. If you like Linda Rice first off the claim and you believe in it, then this would be your horse here, but just not overly certain. Mystical Curtain is another one. Ran a monster effort last time to break his maiden. I mean, just a monster. Won by 20 lengths. Was never in doubt. Nobody went out to get this horse in the lead and just took off and it was all over. A 103 buyer. That's 18 points higher than anything this horse had run previously. May have had something to do with the track. I mean, if you go back to the previous career high, it was on good to soft, and it got an 85 buyer in kind of the same type of race. So, again, really uncertain. Now, you can say this. This horse doesn't have to run a 103 buyer here to win this race. That is absolutely true. And there isn't a lot of early pace in this race, so this one may get on the lead uncontested. That's also true. And coming in third off the layoff, so there's some things to like. You do get Jose Lascano, but it's just usually when horses run that big an effort, they're prone to bounce afterwards. Now, if you go back and look at the December 15th 85 buyer, look what happened right after it at a mile. It was 21 lengths up the track, ran a 50. Got a feeling we're going to get the same type of scenario here. So for me, this would be a solid bet against. I just, it just looks like a bounce scenario to me. Warrior Richard, to me, is in the best form of any of them. You look and see that this one broke the maiden at the 20,000 level and came right back. They raised up the class to 32,000, and this one won against winners and posted a career high at 3 years old. I think that's all positive. You do see at the 62K level, though, didn't do as well, but it was a decent race. And this one stayed in it the whole way, and it wasn't one of those races where you got the feeling that this one was completely outclassed. And so that tells me that, when you drop down to the starter allowance level, that maybe that's a better fit for this one. So at 6-1, I think you're getting a really nice price, and I like this one's chances. Winning Connection is trained by Patrick Reynolds, and he's 0 for the meet. You can draw a line to the last one. Obviously, something went wrong, and early on, and just had no bearing on the race, so you can just call it a non-start just about. So, but if we go back to May 21st at the starter allowance level, this one ran a pretty good race. Granted, had to come from the clouds to do so, and I don't know that that's necessarily the type of scenario that's a win potential here. But you certainly have to think that this one's going to factor in this race, given the class relief back on dirt and whatnot. I'm just not sure that I like this one as much as I do others, but I could certainly consider using under. So here's what our ticket looks like for the early pick 5. In the first, we're going to use 1 and 3. In the second, we're going to spread. We're going to use them all except Rafua. I think this is a big-time spread race. 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. In the third, we're going to use 1, 3, and 6, and we're betting against Masterpiece. I'm just not a believer in that horse. Hasn't demonstrated he knows how to win, so I'll pass on him. And in the fourth, we're going to use 4 and 5. And then in the fifth, we're going to use 4, 5, and 6. And that race, I think you can go a lot of different ways, but I think those are probably the most logical options. So we got 2 times 5 is 10, times 3 is 30, times 2 is 60, times 3 is 180 on a 50-cent base. That's a $90 ticket. And I think this is a pretty challenging sequence. There's not a lot of form-fitting races here. So that's the 4th of July early pick 5 sequence. I hope our analysis helps you in making your own selections, and I'll wish you the best of luck. We will have more coverage, of course, leading all the way up to Saratoga, and where we're going to cover very extensively. And we got a couple of new things on the horizon that I think you're going to like, and be on the lookout for those. I'll be posting about them in the very near future. Of course, if you do like what you see here, of course, please like and subscribe, and we do thank you for coming by. I'll be talking to you in the very near future, and until then, be well.